yeah, so what you know is like it's really easy to get started, like super nice, quick, great developer experience if you're working with kind of JavaScript or mobile SDKs. Doesn't seem to be any. Okay, yeah. I think that's okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so for the recording, these two folks here are the two founders of Supabase, and it started 5 years ago right here in Singapore, which is nice. Great. Okay, let me see. Yeah, so I'm not one of the founders. I happen to be at the right place at the right time. I actually came to Singapore 5.5 years ago now. Back then with Stripe. If you know Stripe, kind of online payments. I was with Stripe for almost 6 years. Kind of joined back late in late 2015. Back then I joined in Ireland. And I joined in Ireland to build out the German-speaking support team. So I'm originally from Germany, but eventually they figured out my German isn't that great, and so they, made me do other things. No, just kidding. I, kind of build various sort of customer-facing engineering teams at Stripe, so kind of support engineering, sales engineering, and then eventually developer relations. And yeah, that is what brought me out to Singapore. So I came here with Stripe in 2019, sort of back then with the idea of building out the sort of sales engineering developer relations for Stripe across APAC, which was great. And then COVID hit, everything changed. But yeah, I fell in love with Singapore. And so even, COVID is gone, I'm still here. Don't know which one's worse, but yeah. Cool. I'm also one of the 2 GitHub stars in Singapore. There definitely should be more. So if you know some great folks doing great open source work in Singapore, let me know. I need to refer them so we have more GitHub stars in Singapore. I also organize something that's called Hacker House Taiwan. My wife is Taiwanese, so I love Taiwan. I try to spend a lot of time there. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can just bring a bunch of software engineers, from all around the world to come together in Taiwan. And so that's what Hacker House Taiwan is. So yeah, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I post videos and stuff, which might be interesting. But yeah, also I didn't bring any t-shirts, but if you're all participating in the hackathon, right? So I think we sent some t-shirts to the hackathon. If you don't manage to get a t-shirt, just send me a message on Twitter and I can give you a code for our swag store, and then you can order that t-shirt there for free. Cool. Okay, well, that wasn't meant to happen. There we go. Okay, Supabase as a company. So yeah, pretty incredible. Just 5 years young now, launched in 2020. As I mentioned, he built here in Singapore and started here in Singapore. Um, Went through Y Combinator in summer of 2020, actually. So not too long ago. And then yeah, all of our VC funding is from the US. So we had a couple rounds. The latest round was Series B kind of last year. So yeah, we raised a little bit of money that we used to, pay some employees. Actually, we have staff in more than 25 countries. We have, I think, roughly 95 people now globally, and probably actually 20 people employed kind of through the Singapore entity here. Yeah, we're hiring as well. So like if you check out the careers page, might be interesting. And then yeah, we've been fortunate that a lot of people enjoy working with Singapore, enjoy working with Supabase, Singapore as well, but with Supabase. So we have a lot of community members, and we've been very fortunate that they've been creating content and telling their friends. And so yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, in terms of open source, so we really have this philosophy of kind of everything being modular, everything being open source. So all of the Supabase products, the entire Supabase stack is open source. And generally what we do is we, look for existing open source projects that we can, fund or use and basically build upon that. But so, yeah, you can look at the source code, you can contribute. Open source has been great for us, actually, in terms of hiring. So we basically just look at people that are contributing to the project, and then we already see their work. And so we don't need to like interview them for a long time because like we've basically been working with them. So a large amount of the Supabase employees actually have been kind of open source contributors, and so yeah, the one of the fastest growing GitHub database repos out there. Yeah, so I think that's a little bit about the history. Now, Supabase products, or sort of the parts that we have in the stack, this just goes to supabase.com. So no need to scan. You can just go to supabase.com. But yeah, maybe this is a bit more complicated than it needs to be. But there's a lot of things here. So at its core, we have the database. So as I mentioned, kind of built on top of Postgres, open source, relational, battle tested database, great performance, but also incredibly powerful in terms of the extension ecosystem. So for example, if you're working with, geospatial data, there is an extension that's called PostGIS, which allows you to do, mathematical calculations with geospatial data and indexing geospatial data. And, as you know, the Earth is round, which makes the math of geospatial things quite a lot more complicated than if it were just flat, but it's not. So yeah, so there's incredibly powerful extensions. Also working with kind of JSON data. JSON-B is kind of built in within Postgres. So you can actually do sort of NoSQL database on top of Postgres as well with kind of JSON-B, which is pretty cool. There's even an open source project which is called FerretDB, which actually implements kind of a MongoDB proxy on top of Postgres. So basically, you can use the entire MongoDB kind of ecosystem and like client SDKs and such, but in the end have everything in Postgres, which is really neat. So yeah, we're Postgres fans. Huge extension ecosystem, open source ecosystem. Also now, with kind of the AI use cases, vector databases have become really important. Have you worked with kind of vector embeddings, sort of that? People familiar with that? No, okay, not so much. So yeah, there's some good blog posts as well. If you Google Supabase vector embeddings, I think you can find it there. But basically the way kind of that large language models work and sort of how you do kind of RAG sort of what does RAG stand for again? Something augmented retrieval. So if you're building AI chatbots and you want to give them kind of a knowledge base information, what you generally do is you sort of take your information, and that might be images, that might be text, and you basically translate that into a vector. And so you might have heard this within kind of the embedding, sort of there's different dimensions. So you might have like 500 dimensions, 1,000 dimensions, what have you. So the more dimensions you have, kind of the more human context you can encapsulate in kind of that vector. So in the end, really what it does is it just kind of turns human, context, like, language context, or the context of an image, right? There's like a dog chasing a cat, like in an image. So if you turn that into this vector and you put that into the vector space, and then you have a text that basically says, a cat, a dog chases a cat, then the vector for that text and the vector for that image will be very close to each other, because contextually they have the same kind of meaning. And so what that means by, turning everything kind of into that vector space, you can now perform sort of similarity search. So generally what you do is, when you have an LLM, you ask the LLM a question. So what you do is you generate a vector for that question. Then you do a similarity search for kind of all the knowledge that relates to that question, and then you provide that as context to sort of the LLM. Anyway, that is a quite specific use case, but with sort of OpenAI, ChatGPT, large language models picking up, vector databases have become really important. And the great thing is, again, Postgres has an extension for it, which is PG Vector, which enables basically vector math for kind of AI applications on top of Postgres. A bunch of other things. We have like auto-generated APIs. So normally with your database, you'd be using with like a relational database, you'd be using SQL, SQL, kind of structured query language to interface with your data. But there's a really great open source project that is called Postgres, which auto-generates a REST API to interact with your database. So the great thing is that now basically, anything that can speak HTTP protocol, JavaScript very easily, like in the browser, you can make HTTP requests, right? Nowadays, like your toaster, your fridge pretty much can speak HTTP. So any kind of environment that can speak HTTP can now interact with your database through this API. And then the way you secure it is with kind of authentication. So generally, when you build applications, you need some sort of user management, right? You need to get users to log in to the application, and then you need to give them access to certain data based on kind of which user they are. And so that again is an open source project within kind of the Supabase stack. Originally it was built by Netlify, which kind of one of these Jamstack hosting companies. I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, Jamstack was like the thing. Maybe you're too young for that, but Jamstack was kind of the Netlify age when all that happened. Like Gatsby, do people remember Gatsby? Jamstack? No. Am I just too old? Maybe. Look it up. It's very interesting. But so that is kind of where that authentication project started. Again, open source project incorporated into the Supabase stack. And then there's a bunch of other things. File storage, if you need to store kind of images, videos, anything that's kind of unstructured data, you would use kind of file storage. And again, the file storage integrates with your database. So all of the metadata for your files is in your database, which now means you can, again, use authentication to then basically give access to your files. And so you see kind of a theme here is like all these different components within Supabase are kind of, useful in itself on their own. But then when you put them together as kind of a broader stack, so, authentication is kind of accessible within each part of the Supabase stack. So you have authentication built into your file storage. You have authentication built into your database, into your real-time, into your edge functions. So that's a really powerful thing. You have kind of all these different Legos basically, but as you put these Legos together, they become a lot more powerful because they are all kind of integrated with each other. So, if you're building web apps, mobile apps, you can get pretty far with sort of Supabase as a backend. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to just shout them out as well. Maybe one thing to highlight as well is probably one of the things that made Supabase so successful. Because Postgres is SQL-based kind of relational database management system, there's quite a big barrier to entry to like interacting with Postgres because you need to know SQL, right? So what we've done is we've built the Supabase Studio, which is kind of a web-based dashboard for you to interact with your Postgres database. And so a lot of, kind of the front-end engineers that, might not be as familiar with SQL and Postgres, they basically got that to kind of break down the barrier of Postgres and sort of get started. And so now we have like conversational AI assistants in there. So you can actually write SQL without knowing SQL by basically just prompting within the Supabase dashboard. We'll take a look at that in a bit. We have a table editor as well. And yeah, tons of stuff in there. So yeah, if, during the hackathon, you need kind of something to, get started, some authentication, persist some user data, persist, some files and some things, then, do have a look at Supabase and see if that might be useful for your project. Okay. Any questions at this point? Supabase products? No? All good? Okay, cool. So what we'll do now is, does everyone have like their laptops? Yeah, right. It's a workshop. Cool. So if you go to your laptop and you just go to this website, database.build. So this is a project that we've built, which essentially is a conversational assistant for your Postgres database. Now, the thing that's really cool with this is that the database is actually running in your browser. So again, there's a really cool open source project. If you're interested to look that up, it's called PG Lite. So PG Lite is a project by a company in the UK, Electric SQL, they're called. And what they've done basically is they've taken Postgres and spec'd it down and put it into your browser. So the great thing with that is that you can spin up unlimited databases in your browser, and you can just, kind of chat with your database, get this assistant to basically do all the hard work for you. So what we can say is, okay, maybe we want to build a to-do list, right? And then we just have a prompt here, create a to-do list application with support for multiple lists, due dates, priorities, tasks. Wow. Okay, that is quite a lot. And we just fire that off. And so basically now it goes. In the background, it's using ChatGPT 4.0, I think. So it thinks for a bit, and then it goes like, okay, you probably want a user table, a categories table, list table. And so, if you're familiar with relational databases, the way this works is that you split out kind of, your information into separate tables, and then you have relationships between these tables. And you can see this here in the editor that, we have like list IDs that kind of link back to our lists here, user IDs. And so you can see kind of the relationships between the tables here. And the great thing is you can see, okay, it generated some SQL for us here, right? Which is great. But now the cool thing as well is what we can do is we can say populate. How do you spell populate? Populate the database with some sample data. And we can fire that off. And so now it's thinking a little bit. Oh, and now we have some error. That's the demo effect. Okay, so we have an error. But what the great thing is here is that, you know, because we're sort of in the browser, we're actually giving kind of the AI a bunch of, you know, more access to this. And basically, we're just letting the AI, you know, go iterate through and fix the errors themselves. And now I believe we have some data populated in the database. So you can see kind of the SQL we executed here. And so I think what we can do is then, what do we do? Okay, buy groceries, doctor appointment. And then, you know, if you say, okay, give me a query to get all the unfinished to-dos, for example. And then, you know, it would give you, okay. So, you know, because you're splitting things out into relationships, you now see that you need to join kind of the data back and such. So this is really neat if you know, sort of need to iterate on your idea. Now, this is only limited, right, to the database. So this generates kind of your SQL, runs your database. You can then, if you want, deploy that database to Supabase. You can download the migrations as well, but you know, it's basically more of a playground to sort of sketch out what your backend could look like. Now, once you're sort of ready, you want to put things into production, you would go to database.new. So database.new actually allows you to, so in this case, you will need to create a Supabase account if you don't have one already. It's free, so you know, would be great if you follow along and could kind of do that. So yeah, maybe we'll just take a couple minutes to do that. We'll say project name, NUS, hackers 2025. You can generate a database password. Just if you do that, make sure that you copy it and you store it somewhere safe, so you have it available later. And then the region, you know, since we're in Singapore here, we'll just use Singapore, and then we can say create new project. Okay, it doesn't like me. Doesn't like me today. Let's see. Super NUS Hackers 2025 generate create projects. Okay. Not sure what happened there. And so then it basically goes and it spins up kind of the entire Supabase stack for you. You can see where we're setting up the project here. And we'll just take a second to do that. Okay, and then we'll kind of, when everything is sort of spun up, we'll see welcome to your new project. And then you can check kind of the project status here. So spinning up the database. So what's actually happening in the background is that we're provisioning all this on AWS. So Supabase is running on AWS. Actually, funnily enough, because Supabase was started in Singapore, our AWS account managers are actually here in Singapore, and they are very happy because we have all these free projects and we're giving them all the VC money here in Singapore, so they're happy about that. Okay, anyone having any issues kind of creating the account? All good? Who still needs some more time to set up their projects? No one. Ah, everyone's so quick. I feel like people just don't like raising their hands, isn't it? You can stand up if that's easier. No, everyone finished really with the project. Come on, give me some feedback. Something, anything. Who's got their project set up? Okay. Who needs a bit more time? Okay. Who's just here for the free food after? Ah, at least you're honest. Okay, like that. So what are you working on instead? Just things. That's okay. I'm just generally interested. Okay, we can talk over dinner later. Cool. Okay, we'll see. Let me see if that is all set up now. Huh, it seems to be still spinning up. I think we can already access the SQL editor here. So you can see here you have a table editor. So you can actually use the UI as well to create your tables if you want to. There is a bunch of things also where you know, kind of if you scroll down on the front page, you can find you know, kind of different client libraries. So like if you're building JavaScript applications, right, you can see that here. Flutter, Python, Swift, Kotlin, if you're building sort of native iOS, Android apps. And then there's a bunch of example projects that you can tap into. So what do you learn kind of nowadays? Do you do like Next.js, or do you just do JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript? No? Ah, okay. But what do you do? Oh, you use Gatsby. Oh, that's interesting. People still use that. So yeah, JavaScript, Gatsby framework. Awesome. People use Next.js, Vue, Next. Okay, some folks. Flutter. Okay, some mobile folks. Okay, cool. Do they teach specific frameworks at NUS? Is that like, or is it just vanilla JavaScript? No, no JavaScript whatsoever. Java. All right. Very good. Wow. All right. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, those browsers, you know, who needs that? No money in that. Yeah, but maybe you don't actually, you know, need to know any of that, because we'll look at some of the tools that you can leverage to actually generate kind of basically the entire project, which is pretty mind-blowing nowadays, what sort of these tools are capable of doing. But maybe for now, let's have a look. So if we go here, can you see that? Yeah, I think the screen is pretty big. So you can go to the SQL editor, you can, you know, write some SQL here, but then also the magic tool here in the top right is where you can access your AI assistant. Again, this is quite powerful because, you know, we're basically fitting the bill for, like in the background, this is using the OpenAI APIs. But, you know, we're paying for that. We're giving you a free project. So, you know, go wild. So for example, if we say, okay, we want a Slack clone, we can see it, you know, would generate a bunch of stuff here. So maybe it would just go run that query. Okay, run. And so, yeah, what we see is success. Okay, cool. So now we can go into the table editor and we can see, okay, so the assistant kind of spun up a bunch of things here. Some channels, we can see kind of a public, random, some messages here as well. Some users. So this is just the Superbot here. Some user roles. Actually, no user roles yet. Role permissions. Yeah, we can see kind of admin, moderator. So basically, you know, it created kind of a Slack clone application for us, or, you know, at least the database things. And, you know, we can interact with that here. We can sort of insert a new row in the interface. So, you know, we get quite far without actually sort of having to write any SQL whatsoever. And then I think there's even, you know, say you're using kind of JavaScript. I think there was like a tool, Supabase, simple tool, JavaScript. Oh, tool, what is it? I'm far away in the tool. How do you spell translate? SQL to REST API translate. This guy here. Okay. Wait, I'll share. So, you know, basically, as I mentioned, what we do is we auto-generate an API for you, which now means is, you know, rather than writing SQL, you can interact with your database through HTTP. For example, here, you know, in the end, a simple GET request will kind of get you your data. Or, you know, you can use JavaScript. So this is kind of what the JavaScript client libraries would look like. So let me see. So it's fairly readable. Basically, you get kind of this Supabase client in your application. And then you would say from sort of my books table, I want to select kind of the title and the description. I want kind of the description to include sort of cheese. I want to order the title, you know, in descending order, ascending false. And then I just want the range. So there's a bunch of things, you know, that you can do kind of. So this is a really helpful tool if you sort of need to go from, okay, SQL to JavaScript in your application, which is quite neat. Okay. Did everyone sort of manage to get, you know, something populated in their Supabase projects, some data in there? Yes? Okay. That's cool. So what we can do now is probably the more fun part. So kind of similar to, you know, maybe the you know, database.build, kind of the back end prototyping tool with sort of the AI assistant built in. Nowadays, you have a lot of these tools, you know, Cursor as well. I think Windsurf, you know, pretty much everyone out there is building sort of a code generation tool now. Have you heard of V0? v0.dev? Yeah, some folks. So Vercel, the company behind Next.js, they've built this. It works surprisingly well, actually. It's pretty great. There is a bunch of other things. Bolt.new, I think probably the most recent one, sort of lovable.dev. But yeah, maybe we can take a look at v0. So it's just v0.dev. I believe you might need to log in with like a GitHub account. But then yeah, it's pretty cool. You can actually scaffold like entire applications with this. So maybe, yeah. What do we want to build? What are people building for the hackathon? Any cool projects? Or I guess it's somewhat competitive, right? So people won't tell each other what they are building. No. Sorry? Which one? Oh, Shy, yes. Can we build an application for that? Okay, so maybe, yeah, that's a good idea. Icebreakers, right? Maybe that's a good idea. Okay, so I like that. That's a good one. So create a simple app that provides random icebreakers. Yeah, maybe just that. Okay, say random icebreakers. The icebreakers should be stored in Supabase database. Okay. Obviously, you can put in whatever you want, but I think that's a nice one. Maybe I'll sit down for a bit. No, this one doesn't work. But yeah, so what you can see basically now is you give it a prompt and it just goes off and writes all the code for you. And maybe, I hope there's no professors in the room. Maybe they won't be so happy I'm sharing this with you. Oh, you see, it doesn't work. Okay. We get something here where it says, oh, all right, we're missing environment variables. Okay, that's good to know. So basically the way we interact with our Supabase project, okay, update the .env.local file with your Supabase project URL. Okay, so I think what we can do is we can go into the code. There we go. You can see this here. And so let's see if we need to client components. Okay, so here's actually the instructions, right? Okay, we just need to read. Okay, first you'll need to set up a Supabase project. We already have our Supabase project, right? Once your project is ready, create a new table called icebreakers. Okay, let's do this manually for now. There is, obviously ways to automate that. Oh, sorry. So app.supabase.com. So app.supabase.com is where you find your project. What did we call our project? NUS Hackers 2025. There we are. And so the instructions now were, okay, create a new table. The table should be called icebreakers, right? What's that? With the following structure. Okay, so we want the ID to be an integer and our primary key. So we have an ID, which is our integer. And I think it's already selected as the identity, which is the primary key. Oh, no, here. So, okay, we have to set as the primary key. And then we also need a question, which is of type text. Okay, so we can say add a column. We can remove this created at, or we can leave it. So what you can see, what's really cool in Postgres as well, Postgres has functions, kind of within it. And so what you can do is, or, functions or expressions. One of these expressions is now. And so as you can probably imagine, now basically gives you the current timestamp at the point in time that an insert statement is run. So we can leave that as created at. We can just leave that in there. And then we have our question, and our question should be of type text. And you can see there's a bunch of data types available within Postgres, but we just want text, variable length, character string, text. Okay, that's great. And then we can see we don't want it to be nullable because, if we have a question, we do want it to exist. We don't want, so basically nullable means that this specific column can be empty. Okay, so we can save that. And so now you can see we have a new table. Our table is called icebreakers. Okay, great. So we have that. After creating the table, insert some icebreakers questions into it. Oh, that's a bit annoying now, isn't it? Didn't we want AI to do the job? Okay, maybe we can use this AI. So we say, how can I assist you? We say, okay, insert some. Okay, we say insert 10 icebreakers. Maybe we'll just do that. We'll need to know the structure of your table. Yeah. Okay. So basically what it's now doing is it's getting kind of our, yeah. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Insert. And so you can see now, okay, we have some SQL that we can run. And we just say, run the query. Great. And so now if we refresh, there we have some icebreakers. Okay. Fabulous. Now this was a lot easier than coming up with some icebreakers. Okay, everyone so far following along? Anyone stuck? No one stuck. Impressive. I'll give you another minute, maybe. The people who are here for supper. Do you know what's for supper? Doesn't matter, right? It's free. Yeah. Actually, what's for supper? Pizza. Yeah. Pizza's good. Okay. But there's a condition for the pizza. You need to show your application running, and then you get a slice of pizza. So for every icebreaker that you can show, you qualify for one bite of pizza. Actually, the people in the back, can you see, like, are people like working on this? Is it working? Do I need to go around and check? Or, I mean, this is all optional, right? So, okay, I trust that you have some data in your database now. Okay, we can continue. Now let's create the app with the Supabase integration. Okay, great. We see we get like a Supabase client here. So what you can see is that it is generating the JavaScript code for us. So the way, in JavaScript, actually everyone familiar with kind of JavaScript? Yeah, it's basically like Java, but you know, people who do Java will laugh at you if you use it. Sorry? Yes, very good. That's a good one, actually. I like that. Okay. So JavaScript we use to interact, so create interactivity within our browser. So the way this works, so this is a module that is released on NPM. So NPM is kind of this, what is it actually called? Node package manager? Yeah, that's interesting because actually in this case, we're not really using Node, but I guess doesn't really matter. So it's just kind of a package registry for, you know, publishing modules. So we create this library called Supabase JS, and we publish it to NPM, which means you can then install it on your machine, on your computer. And so we have a create client method here. And the way we create our Supabase client is we need two pieces of information. We need our Supabase URL, and we need our Supabase anon key. So anon key, you know, if you go back to your project and you go to home, you can see that here you have a section project API. So you remember we auto-generate this data API for you. And we give you a project URL, which here basically uses your unique project identifier. So we need to copy that. And we need to go over into our repository here. And we have a .env.local file. So in our .env.local file, we can paste in our URL. So with .env files, we can put it in, what are these called? Parentheses? Quotes, double quotes for the Americans, I guess. Or we don't need them in the .env file, but you know, because it's a string, let's just use it. And then the other piece of information we need is the API key. So the API key we use to authenticate our application with our API. And so we copy that. I always forget I'm here. And then we can just replace that in here. So that's a bit long. It's basically a JWT. It's a JSON web token. If you're familiar with JWTs, it's just kind of a way to encode sort of information in a string. So if you wanted to know what's in the code, you can go, there's a project jwt.io, and you can see, okay, the information basically encoded in here is Supabase, the reference of your Supabase project, the role of your key, which is anon. So it's basically an anonymous role. So in this case, we're not authenticated. We haven't used Supabase auth or anything. We're just, as an anonymous user, authenticating ourselves with the Supabase API. And then there's just some information, which is sort of the expiry of this token, for example. Okay, so now we have that. I think what we need to do is we need to save the changes. And so we might be able to, let me see. Do we need to do anything else? Or do we just need to reload? Loading icebreaker. Okay. Fetching failed. Error. Oh, okay. There is something error fetching icebreakers. So maybe we just look at the code that is fetching the icebreakers. So we can just see our page. Our page just has this icebreaker component. So, you know, this is using React within Next.js. And so here we have our, our icebreaker component, some state variables. I believe this is our fetch random icebreaker. Okay, and so I think our error is something. Fetching icebreaker, unexpected letter, digit delimiter, or end of hint. Oh, failed to parse. Okay, let's see. If we say fix with v0, let's see if that works. Otherwise, we might have to think for ourselves, which on a Friday evening. Okay, so machine is thinking. It's quite nice. Okay, loading icebreaker. What are we missing? Don't we have all the? No. Oh no, I think we have the variable set. It still says loading. Let's say if we say get another icebreaker. Okay, it's not working. Okay, so in this case now. So I think it was just kind of a bit sneaky now, or it was like so now it's just kind of fetching one icebreaker. But we seem to be in a loading state. Okay, let's just see if we. We still have 0 rows. Multiple and no rows returned. Okay, let's see. There might be. Select question. What did we call our? We did call it icebreakers, right? Okay. So one thing that we didn't consider here is that security. We actually enabled security for this table. So you can see that it says RLS is enabled for this table, but no policies are set. So select queries may return 0 results. Now, the reason for that is that basically once we turn on row level security, we need a policy to basically say that we're allowed to retrieve this data from the API. Now, why is that a good idea? You know, obviously, once we have an API with like an anonymous key, anyone can retrieve the data, right? So we want to kind of write some rules to, you know, restrict sort of the data access. Now, in our case, icebreakers, not really sensitive data. So what we can do is we can create a policy. And we can say here, the first policy sounds great, enable read access for all users. So that's what we want. So we say, okay, this one, select enable read access for all users. We can see here for our icebreakers, we want for the select to the public role. So the policy in kind of SQL that is created, we see it here, is select to public using true. So true is basically our evaluation here. So in our case, we don't actually want to do any checks. We just want to say, okay, for all these, any select, which is basically read, retrieve data, is meant to be true, you know, it's meant to be allowed. When we are writing kind of policies, you know, where we're actually checking the user's ID, right? So we can write policies where we check if, you know, the user owns this data, right? And so the way we do this is we basically store their user ID in the row with the data, and then it basically acts like a filter where then the select statement just returns the data that is basically owned by this user, right? So you can write some powerful policies there. In our case, we just want to enable the read access. And so now let's see if that fixed our problem. There we go. That's where you normally clap, but anyway. Hey, okay. Okay, good. Good. We're warming up. All right, random icebreaker. What is your favorite book and why? Sorry, this icebreaker is for you because it was your idea to build this application. What is your favorite book and why? Do people still have favorite books nowadays? Or is it just the internet? TikTok. I wonder if there's any books about TikTok. That's a good question. Are there any books about TikTok? Let's see. Books. Yeah, any kind of literature works, I think. It's called what? Disco Elysium? Ah, never heard of that. Okay, cool. There we go. We're breaking the ice. Okay, let's see. Get another icebreaker. So you see the problem now. Anytime we say get another icebreaker, we get what is your favorite book and why? Now, why is that? Yes. So as you can see, our AI thought very clever. Let's fix this error of like getting a random, thing. Getting a random thing doesn't work. So let's just get one. Yeah. So maybe we can prompt this. Fix the Supabase query to provide a random icebreaker. Okay. So it's thinking now. Let's see if that will work. Oh, so it seems to be regenerating the entire thing, but I don't think. Yeah, I think the problem is that it thinks this works, but it doesn't actually. So like this query, okay. So we might need to do the good old Google search. Crazy. Who searches on Google still nowadays? Supabase, get random row. Okay. Get random items from Supabase. Wow. Okay. One thing that I realize, which is not great, is that there's a lot of results, but they aren't Supabase. Supabase URLs. Okay. So I found probably a thing where we can improve the documentation. Now, getting your data, there's something here. Maybe, let's see if we can find some random payload. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Okay, so maybe okay, maybe we actually need to look at Reddit. Oh yeah, there's a GitHub discussion. Okay, order by random. Let's see. Select. Oh, okay. Might have created a function. Did we find something that's actually not? Okay, let's see. We can see if I told you about this translator, right? SQL to JS translator, Supabase. There we go. Let's see if we say this. Okay, wait, we need to reference account, select question from this still doesn't okay, so it doesn't support random. Really? That's crazy. No, I think Postgres. Wow. I thought this was going to be an interesting and a simple application to do, and we're failing at random. That's random. Issue remains. Did you find something?
Just generate a random number and get a random ID.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Well, the problem is we don't really know what the range is, right? Order equals. Wow. Look at that. That's a bummer. Okay, so maybe return to your solution where we say to return use a random ID between 1 and 10. Okay, so for now, this is good to know. We went into a rabbit hole here with random. So what we'll do now is we'll tape over this by basically generating a random number on the client, right, using JavaScript. So you can see here now what we've done is generating a random ID with JavaScript, and then we're just selecting, and we're using the SQL at the equal. So .eq is kind of the equal filter to that random ID. And so now if we say, okay, fantastic, it's working. Yes. Yeah, definitely. As we increase our application and actually have more than 10 icebreakers, what we could do is we could count how many icebreakers we have. But then now we're doing like 2 queries on the database. So not the ideal solution. The actual ideal solution in this case is we create a Postgres function, and then we can call the Postgres function from the JavaScript. But yeah, this is good to know. We have some work to do on the random side of things. What is a fun fact about yourself? Maybe I can take that one. Fun fact about myself. So growing up in Germany, I used to do, it's quite common in Germany to do ballroom dancing. I don't think it's a thing here, but so in Germany, like as you're in, what's that, high school, right? Kind of like 15, 16 years old. You generally go to like ballroom dancing class. You also get like taught like table manners and stuff. I guess like in the UK, it's kind of like finishing school. Or does Singapore do that? No, ballroom dancing, not a thing. No fun, no fun allowed. Only workshops. Yeah, workshops on a Friday night. That's all the fun we get. Okay. I hope this recording is not. No, this is fun. Yes. I applied for PR, so I need to be careful what I say, right? Okay. Yeah, so the fun fact is that, I used to do ballroom dancing, and actually I gave up ice hockey. So I used to play ice hockey. I gave up ice hockey for ballroom dancing. Yeah, that's a fun fact about myself. Maybe another fun fact is that I used to have a band back in Germany, and we actually still are on Spotify. So if anyone wants to listen to some old, terrible German indie pop rock, you can look for, what is it called? Where is this? Come on, it's somewhere. The Beauty of Life. There we are. Maybe we. That's the kind of fun we have in Germany. Okay. Yes, fun fact. Okay, let's do another one. Okay. So now we've uncovered the problem. So, any ideas? What can we do to not get the same icebreaker again? I mean, I was thinking the easiest would be like, we just delete it. But then we have a problem with, we need to update our random function. So maybe we just click again. What is your go-to karaoke song? Here, you're standing already. What's your go-to karaoke song? Love Story by Taylor Swift. That's great. Did anyone go to the Taylor Swift concert? Wasn't she in Stadium? Yeah. It's crazy. That's good. I mean, if you've watched the documentary, crazy. I mean, really is crazy. Well, I mean, actually, apparently her grandmother used to live in Singapore, right? Isn't that? That's Taylor Swift's fun fact, I guess. Okay. I'm going to see Mayday on Sunday night in Stadium. They are coming. Anyone listen to Mayday? Taiwanese? Yeah. Let's go party all night. Okay. Great. Another icebreaker. What is your favorite movie of all time? Anyone have a favorite movie? You're allowed to stand up. Okay, that doesn't help. Your favorite movie of all time? Forrest Gump. That's a great movie. You might have told everyone that you're a bit older than the others. Have you all seen Forrest Gump? Is that yeah, right? It's a good movie. It's a great movie. Okay, so let's have a look at let's see if we can I think we can open in a new tab. Okay, here we go. So we can see that this is deployed here, in our browser. No, not sorry. It's not deployed in our browser. What am I talking? But it's like deployed to some Vercel, I guess, infrastructure somewhere. And now what we can do is we can look at kind of what is happening. Are people familiar with like the Chrome developer tools? Yeah, he is. Anyone else? Yeah, some people. Okay, so developer tools, Chrome developer tools, really, really neat. What we can do is we can inspect the network traffic. And right, what I told you is that Supabase, we auto-generate an API that makes our data available through HTTP, right? So what we expect is, as we're doing our icebreaker, there will be an HTTP request, right? And in fact, there is an HTTP request here. And so what we can see is, we can go maybe to the headers here. Can I change this a bit? Or no? Am I too zoomed in? anyway, I guess I can scroll. So what we can see is our request URL here is, this looks familiar. What is this? Yes, correct. So this is the project ID, which is within our API URL. So this way we know, okay, which Supabase project are we talking to? Then you can see here that we have a REST API. There's some versioning on the API. It's just version 1. Icebreakers is our table. And then basically what PostREST, so PostREST, PostGREST. So PostREST is that open source project I was talking about, which we use to auto-generate the API. Really incredible project indeed. We, pretty early on, we basically hired the maintainer who's working on this, Steve. He's based in Lima in Peru, and this is kind of the great thing about Supabase being kind of a COVID era company. During COVID, it's like, doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have internet, you just get work done. And so actually, probably thanks to that, Supabase to this day is still a fully remote company. So like, I sometimes just go to Taiwan and just work from there, for a bit, or you can work from wherever, which is pretty incredible. But yeah, so what do we do? Okay, so basically, PostREST, so the Supabase JS, right, our client library, JavaScript client library, is translating the query that we wrote in here. So if you remember, we had this query in JavaScript. So basically, as we're using kind of this await, so in JavaScript we can write kind of asynchronous code. We basically just need to declare our function here as asynchronous, and then we can use the await keyword to run an asynchronous method. What this means really is just that we're basically waiting for this method to return the data. And so as we're doing this, await on, from Icebreakers, what this does in the background is translates this into this request here, where we now basically just add kind of the filters and the select, you see select equals question and ID equals equal.8. So it's basically translating our query into just kind of a long string. It's a get request. And then what we can see here is that there's a bunch of headers that are being added. Specifically, one of the headers we can see here is that our API key. So that's what we put in. This is the API key we use to authenticate our application with the API. And then what you can see, so the payload is just some query parameters in the get URL, right? And then what we can see is that our response is basically just this JSON object, which has a question that basically says, if you could live in if you could live in any fictional universe, which one would you choose? Anyone? Fictional universe? In the back? Yes. What's that? Halo? Oh. Is that violent or? It's just fun. Okay, good. Very good. Sounds great. Okay. And you can see here now as we click, we get again every time. And here we see the issue with using JavaScript to generate a random number. We get a lot of repetition, but then again, we have, 10. Okay, if you could instantly learn any skill, what would it be? I think for me, it would be Mandarin. Been trying to learn Mandarin. 我的中文还不好。你会说中文吗？ Engagement doesn't get any better. 我是住在新加坡的德国人. All right. Yeah, see, he wanted to apply. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Cool. Okay. We have a little bit more time, but yeah, maybe just checking. Did everyone manage to like get that up and running? Oh, the V0 wouldn't start for you. Oh, like trying to log in. Ah, damn. Okay. Damn you, Vercel. Can't have any nice things. But maybe what we can do is we can look at some of the other ones. So yeah, V0 is a good one. Again, you're kind of being boxed into Next.js and Vercel, sort of, you know, obviously all of these have some ulterior motive and are highly opinionated, right? So like depending on which one you choose. Now, one of them, which maybe as a Singaporean, you're more happy about is bolt.new. Anyone heard of bolt.new? No, that's a bummer. Now, the reason why you might be happier about bolt.new is that it uses Vite, which, as you might know, is an open source project by Evan Hu. Evan Hu, the creator of Vue, who lives in Singapore, if you didn't know. We actually did. So if you haven't seen these, just some videos. So there's a Vue documentary. So Honeypot used to do this, where they basically created these documentaries. And yeah, so okay. I got my audio on here. Yeah, Evan Hu, I think ex-Google, New York City, and then he built Vue. But so Nuxt is basically Nuxt is to Vue what Next is to React, right? So Nuxt is kind of a full stack Next docu mini. So we actually did just before Christmas, we created this little documentary, and I recommend you watch it. Yes, we need some more views on this. Views. But yeah, it's really fun. It's basically the kind of a mini documentary about Next.js. And there's Evan in there as well somewhere. One second. Where is it? Where is it? Come on. Come on. There he is. So from this video, you might be able to figure out where Evan lives. Yeah, Sentosa. There you go. Open source money. Yeah, for the win. Sentosa. Okay, so let's do this. So, you know what this means. Okay, the reason why I, mentioned this, Bolt is using kind of more Vite and kind of that ecosystem. Obviously, because it's not affiliated with Vercel. Also, Evan is one of the investors into Bolt, I believe. So, yeah, it's all somehow connected. But let's do this, which might be fun. Let's see. So if we say we just use the exact same prompt. Oh, and another cool thing about Bolt is actually that the project itself, Bolt.new, is open source, which I don't think V0 is open source. I'm not entirely sure. Might be. So same prompt. fire this off. We do need to sign in as well. So we can continue with GitHub. Maybe see if bolt.new works for you. And then, yeah, we'll let the AI do some work. It looks similar, but now what you can see is, here, it's using Vite. It is, I think it's still using React, Icebreaker. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah. So all of these AIs think that they can actually use the random method. So now what we can see is need a new Supabase connection. This is something that at Supabase we luckily did quite well. We built kind of all these relationships with all these AI tools, right? And so they actually somehow, I don't know if it's because the way we've written our documentation or whatever, a lot of the large language models, if you ask ChatGPT, if you ask Anthropic about like, oh, I have an application and I need to store some data, they will actually tell you to use Supabase. And that's fantastic, which, obviously for us, it warms our hearts. The machines like to use Supabase. It's the preferred database of all the machines. So the cool thing with Bolt as well is that we have a direct integration with Supabase. So what you can do is you can say connect to Supabase, I believe, and then you just need to select your organization. I have a bunch of organizations there, and then you just say authorize. Okay, Supabase connected, and we'll now see what happens. Actually, I haven't tested this out myself. So now I think actually it's creating a new project for us in the background. So another cool thing with Supabase is we actually have a management API as well. So if you're, building projects like this, where you actually want to create databases on behalf of your users, right? So you're building some platform like Bolt.new, for example, and you want your users to have their own Supabase project, you can do that programmatically through the management API. Okay, so now it does seem to take a while. Let's see. Supabase request failed. Yeah, and no, so I believe they actually created an entirely new project. So I think what we can see is that if we go to the network, yeah, so we see here headers. What we can do is, so, within our Supabase URL, this is always our project identifier. And so now if we go to, we can do dashboard project, and we can put in the identifier. Yeah, we can see that it actually spun up a new project for us. And I believe it is, yeah, no entities available. So I think it might still be spinning up. So that's kind of a bit of a downside, that like it does take a bit of a while to spin up. But no, it does seem to be. Yeah, so it is running into the exact same issue where it's not smart enough. One thing that you notice, it does look a bit nicer, doesn't it? No, compared to, I mean, obviously it's all subjective. Until you approve or discard the pending database. Oh, look at that. So this is actually really cool. Because because we have this Supabase integration, rather than us having to like create our database ourselves, it actually creates the migration for us. So you can see here now Supabase migrations, and you see it wants to create a new table for us, icebreakers, with the ID, the question, oh, a category even, and it created a timestamp. And then it is creating RLS security, and it's adding a policy for public read access. Look at that. That is a lot nicer, right? Let's, yeah. So we can say apply changes. So let's see what happens. So our prompt is disabled until the database. Okay. So we see, ooh, show problems. Yeah, so we see the problems now, but I think now, yeah, you said it's populated. Let's see. This was our other project. So if we now go to the tables, ooh, no. Oh, there we go. Icebreakers. Ow, look at that. Jesus. Ah, that is nice. Wow. Like, you know, it doesn't figure out the random, but let's prompt this again. Change, change the query to create a random ID. No. Okay, change the query. Create a random ID with JavaScript and select that. Let's see if that, I mean, it's getting late on a Friday, so our prompts might be getting worse. I'll modify the query. Let's see. And let's see. Item, what? Ah, there we go. Fantastic. Okay, what's a skill you'd love to master in the next year? Which is this year? Anyone? And we even have these little categories now. Look at these goals. That's a goal. Anyone has a goal for this year? Oh, yes. Tricks on ice. Ice skating. Fantastic. Look at that. That's great. I used to play ice hockey, so I couldn't do any tricks. I basically was just running into people, which I was playing defense. So that was kind of my job, but that was fun. That's awesome. Do you go like at stadium? There's an ice rink. Yeah. I once went, but they didn't have my shoe size. So I was like, yeah, as a tall German, that's a problem you run into. Oh, look at that spinner animation. That's great and all. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Anyone got any good advice? Was it to come to this workshop? Yeah, that was pretty good advice. I agree. Okay, let's see if we can do this. And yeah, again, we can see the network. So if we say next question again, pretty much same story here. You get the gist, right? But what's a hobby you've always wanted to try but haven't yet? Anyone? Any hobbies? No. What's a hobbies people do in Singapore? Dragon boat. Hualong Joel. Anyone? NUS has a team, right? This is a very one-sided conversation. Okay. We're just waiting for the pizza at this point. I know, 20 minutes. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, what do we do now? Like, we can't even fill a 2-hour workshop. Like, it's all done, isn't it? It's a good point. Oh, what's the most interesting place you have ever traveled to? Has anyone traveled to any interesting places? No? I would say Taiwan. I'm biased. Taiwan is great. It's just a combination of. Oh wait, you guys go to Taiwan for military, no? NS? Who went to Taiwan for NS? There we go. One person. Oh wait, when do you do NS? No, you do it before uni, right? Okay. Where did you do? If you didn't go to Taiwan, where did you go? Australia. No? Nowhere. Woodlands. Jeez, man. We might need that pizza to get the icebreaker started. Best piece of advice, yeah. Okay, if you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would you go? Taiwan. All right. Yeah. No, anyone, where would people go? Where do Singaporeans want to go after university? Germany? Australia? Where do people go to? New Zealand? No. Japan? South America? America? Do people want to go to America? Does it still seem attractive to go to America? My wife wants to go to America. I'm like, yeah, it's too safe in Singapore, isn't it? Need some thrill. Go to America. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think with that, we've achieved some things. Now, one thing we haven't, and I don't know if we'll get it done in time, but maybe let's give it a go. So if we want authentication, right? Potential problems. What are the potential problems? I don't know. No problems. Okay, implement Supabase auth with anonymous sign in and require users to let's say implement Supabase auth with, let's do email. Okay, let's do email. Email is the easiest. And require users to sign up before using the app. Now, obviously auth is an important thing. Like if you're building an application. So what we can see now, maybe we can get Supabase auth done within the last minutes. Again, it's using Supabase.js. We can get email auth done. What will be interesting to see is how there's two changes kind of that we need to do. Obviously, we need to require authentication. So we need to track kind of user state. Before, let's see, what's the issue? Does not provide. Okay, let's see. Attempt to fix. Not really sure what the issue is. That was very cryptic. Yes, but obviously we need to add in kind of Supabase auth. Again, just a little bit of JavaScript. The biggest kind of challenge that we need. Yeah, there we go. This is nice. Okay, don't have an account, so we need to sign up. Oh, this is really nice. I like that. Okay, so we'll say tester at test.de. This is always my standard test email. So if you build a project, I won't be judging the hackathon, but if you see this email, it's me testing your app. Okay, let's sign up. There we go. That seemed almost too easy, right? So, well, let's check our projects. So the way we check is we go to authentication. Ha! Look at that. We have our user in there now. So just a matter of minutes, we added authentication to our app, and it even has a little sign out button there. Look at that. Fantastic. Let's see if we can log in. Test.de. Let's put in a wrong password. Let's see what happens. Yes. Oh. Okay, let's put in. Let's see if I remember the right password. Huh? Okay, that's nice. So with that, I think I mean, obviously with the help of AI, covered quite a bit. I think this is a nice app. I think this might win you the hackathon. Yeah, could be. No. With that, yeah, last 10 minutes, I think, before we're wrapping up here. Any questions? Yeah, I think the thing is that in the end, really what it comes down to is, use AI for your job. I think that's probably within the next couple of years. I mean, if AGI happens this year, who knows? Who knows what happens, right? But like for now, just use AI. I think I don't know if there's any policy at NUS in terms of like, oh, you can't use these tools or what have you. But even, if you might not be able to use them for your projects, like you can use them and look at the code it kind of, generates, right? So you can look at the code, you can learn kind of from that. I think that's very valid thing to do. But yeah, I think the gist is use the tools, right? Like back in the day, people didn't have a calculator. And then they had a calculator and they just calculated faster, right? So for now, these are tools. Obviously, it's useful for some, like generating code actually gets quite good nowadays. There's maybe we can do this where so if you go to my Twitter, so I'm just Thor Web Dev. I also do mobile dev, but like when I gave myself that name, I was just mainly doing web dev. There's some cool things on there. Specifically this one. So this is a demo I actually just built yesterday. Let's see if I can WebRTC and React. Okay. Can I just turn off the Zoom audio? Yeah, I guess I can. Yeah, I mean, so you can't hear the audio. I mean, you can watch it yourself, but maybe I can just narrate it. So basically, OpenAI has now this real-time API, and I just implemented it with React Native. Have people heard of React Native? Like Expo React Native, really, really nice tool to basically build cross-platform applications. So this application, the code is linked as well on my Twitter, like on the tweet in kind of a thread. And so basically the OpenAI real-time API, you can use WebRTC. WebRTC is kind of a protocol to allow you to directly connect kind of real-time connection. So you can basically connect your phone kind of in real time to OpenAI API, and it just allows you to kind of create this audio channel. But one thing that's really powerful is that kind of tool calling, right? Or function calling, tool calling. So you can define kind of functions within your application and then basically make them available to the OpenAI model. And so, in my case, I actually have some functions. I have like get battery level, change display brightness. And so by making these functions available to the model then can decide based on your prompt. I basically say like, oh, can you tell me my phone's battery level? And so the model knows, okay, there is a function in the app that's get battery level. So let me call that function. And so basically from the response then, from the model, you then call the function on the client and you feed the function response back to the model. And it can then tell you, okay, the level, the battery level is 95%. And now basically I'm saying, okay, to save some battery, can you dim the screen of my phone? And again, it knows there's a function to change the brightness. And you can see now, okay, it figured out I can call this function with the number 0 to like change the brightness. I can also flash the screen. And then, I tell it, okay, set the brightness back to 100%. And so it does that. And so I think like in the end, this is just incredibly exciting to build like, applications now. So yeah, embrace it. Use the tools. I know OpenAI real time is pretty expensive. Yeah. So might not be viable for your hackathon. But actually, I don't know if they do have the NUS hackers spoken to the OpenAI folks. Maybe you can get like some credits or something. Yeah, I can ask them. Sorry? Hardware only. Or like local on your machine? Oh. I can ask. So like a lot of my former Stripe colleagues actually now work at OpenAI, and I know they just opened the office in Singapore and doing stuff here. Maybe they can give you some credits for the hackathon, which would be cool. Any other questions? No? Everyone happy? Everyone hungry? Yeah. Everyone using Supabase for the hackathon? Sweet. Cool. Well, if you have any questions later on, you can find me on the Twitter. Yeah, did I have anything else? Let me see. Yeah, another one actually really cool. Lovable.dev also has a Supabase integration in there. Yeah, just another one to try out. I mean, there's Cursor as well. There's WordSurf now from Codium. There is SourceGraph. There's tons. GitHub Copilot, right? So yeah, everyone wants you to use their tool. Try it out, see what works for you. Yeah, Bolt.new worked really well for us today, which is great. With that, thank you, 谢谢你们. Yeah, cheers. And yeah, you can find me Twitter, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. Blue Sky is a new thing now. But generally, yeah, just thorweb.dev. Also my website. This is my little mascot. It's not a post box, it's a hammer. I know it looks like a post box. Everyone's like, huh? Why you have a post box? Because in America, the post box actually looks like that. Great. No, it's a hammer. Yeah. You can find my Twitter, GitHub. There's a blog. There's not really much on the blog. There's a blog about the Hacker House. This was the first Hacker House we did. Yeah, Taiwan is great. Okay. Any other questions? No? Cool. Let me put the first slide just in case you didn't scan the, yeah, you can scan that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be around. I think there's I don't know what the pizza ETA situation. Maybe you need to build an app for, to get that ETA. Oh yeah, are we taking a picture? What's the story? Yeah, come. Lie. Sorry. Oh yeah, and if you want any Supabase swag, just find me on Twitter or LinkedIn or come to the hackathon. I think there'll be Supabase swag at the hackathon. So my website is using Dino Fresh. Have people heard of Dino Fresh? No. So Dino. Yes. So basically the creator of Node.js, Ryan Dahl, I think is his name. So he basically went back and was like, Node.js is terrible. Let's try it again. And he created Dino, which is just Node, but scrambled up. No, because Dino is like the same Node, Dino, right? The same letters. What's the word for that? There's a word for that, right? When you jumble up the letters. Anagram? Is it anagram? Maybe anagram. Yeah. So that's Dino, and there is basically a next alternative for Dino, which is called Fresh. So I was just playing around with Dino Fresh, and that's what I use for my website.
Sorry. First of all, thank you all for coming down for the workshop. Can you have a round of applause for Thor from Supabase? That was a pretty fun workshop, right? Yes. So yeah, it is a Friday night, a rainy night. We have some pizza out back for you guys. So you can go grab that. But before we go, couple things. There's a feedback form that we'll ask you to just scan a QR code and give. That's one. And two, we also want to scan your attendance. So just have your QR code on your participant dashboard ready. While you're taking your pizza, we just scan it quickly. So this is just to keep track of attendance and food, nothing else. Worst case, if it doesn't work, you still get your pizza. Don't worry about it. And yeah, that's it. So thank you all for coming down.
I guess people don't want it.
Yeah, don't seem interested, but that's okay. That's okay. We did get some good pictures in the middle of the workshop, so that's all fine. Yeah, all right. So thank you all for coming down, and yeah, you can grab your pizza.
Thanks for organizing.
Thank you for coming down as well. It was
Yeah,
a very, very fun workshop.
It's fun.
Come on in. Come on,
Yeah,
I
you
was
too.
in the back.
Thanks. Okay.